Hey everybody, this is Max, also known as Massimo on FTR.
Hi, this is IowaSkinsFan, also my real name, Danny. And we're going to make a joint video, so hopefully you guys can get some insight on to how we play, and hopefully you can get some insight on some questionable spots you wouldn't know how to play in, and just hands in general. So right now we're just going to show you two tables. Most of the tables are filled with some tight rags. We're going to raise ace-5 suited under the gun.
It's actually the cutoff right now since it's four-handed. I hope the sound's okay. We'll try to speak a little louder during the video. Okay, so we got a 10-9-7. We haven't really hit it. This is definitely not a spot to continuation bet, especially with their image. And we're just probably going to just give up. We're definitely going to give up this pot right now. Okay, there we go. Reload. We like to have full stack. Ace-5 offsuit. Easy fold under the gun.
Max, why don't you just explain what your HUD stats are and why you're using them?
Well, pretty much. Well, why don't you explain it since you have something in mind?
I don't know which stats you have up.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. So right now what I have up is right here is VPIP. This is pre-flop raise, and this white thing is attempt to steal blinds, which gives me an idea of how much they raise in position. This infinite sign is aggression factor. This is how many hands played, 96 hands on this guy. This is continuation bet percentage, how much the person continuation bets. And this is went to showdown. So we just had a big pot here. I'm going to check it out. Okay, so we flop, hold on, I'm checking it out over here, but we flop trip fours over here. We're just going to make a pot bet, try to build the pot. Okay, he didn't have anything. Whatever. Checking the pot before. Okay, so it looks like they both had top pair bullshit or whatever his name is. 3-bet pushed. Top pair all in on a. Oh, first of all he 3-bet. 3-bet king queen. Actually, Danny, can you take the mic for a second?
So we have Jack 10 and LP. Max is just looking at this hand, taking notes. We're going to raise it up. Looks like we're not going to get a color or make it a color. Max, you're typing in the chat box. Alright, so flop comes pretty monotone. This is pretty standard C-bet. Personally, I like C-betting hard here to 14 or 12 at least. But it's mostly dependent on opponent. That opponent's pretty loose. We just want to make sure he doesn't call with like mid-pair or low pair, so we don't know whether we need a second barrel or not. Ace-10, another opener. We're pretty loose. Again, we get folds. And we take down another pot. And already we are up $60. Okay, obviously we're going to fold 7-2 off.
Danny, I think you need to speak a little louder. They might not be able to hear you. Okay, just some interesting things. This guy, I've had experience with him, even though he's a 19.4, 14.5, he's 3-bets and squeezes all this junk. He's 4-bet ace-queen off to my re-raise from the blind, so that's interesting. I doubt I have notes on this guy. I haven't played with him much. Nor this guy. 10-3, easy fold. So yeah, so we just gotta wait around. See if we get a hand. Hopefully we will. Hopefully we'll get into a good situation. Easy check there. We're just going to check that. This is a raise, I think. Oh, actually, there we go. We got the short stack in there, so we can't raise this. But If there's no short stack, I might actually raise that. We're just going to check this again. And we'll check it down. Probably take it down. There we go. Easy money there. Good $2. That adds up. Okay, we're just going to fold this.
Okay, so pocket threes. We have, again, the small blind is not full, but we're gonna raise it up. He raises to 4 as a half stack. We're just gonna call and hope to the set. Okay, we're just gonna check fold. Nine, 8. No. Nines, we raise under the gun. We raise all pocket pairs under the gun. We get a call from Nutmucka. Immediately what comes to mind is a low pocket pair or a suited connector of some sort. So we're going to see bet this, I'd say pretty hard. 14 sounds good. And he folds because he probably had a low pocket pair or suited connector. So this is a very good flop for us. We're just going to check here, though Jack 7 off is my favorite hand. We're going to check here also because it's a short stack. Or you're going to raise. I wouldn't have done that, but whatever. It's a short stack. It's pretty reasonable, though we have the best hand, so.
I'd just like to say, though, that I'm probably not going to do that again because he's going to probably stop limping and he's going to try to limp raise me. Ooh, we picked up aces. There we go. Hopefully we get some action. Okay, we probably won't. I'm just going to raise 6 here because the stack's kind of small. Hopefully, maybe they'll induce a raise or something, but he seems really tight, so... I almost want to move tables. I'm going to try to find a full table and get on the waiting list. Okay, this is an easy raise, suited ace. We're going to call here just because we got good implied odds. Okay, so now we hit top pair, flush draw. This is a very good hand. We're going to bet like 8, 2/3 pot. Okay, we got a call. Ooh, now we hit our flush. Okay, so we definitely don't want to stop betting here. We definitely want to continue to build the pot. I'm just gonna fold over here because Danny, you make some commentary.
All right. Well, his range right now is probably a few aces, a few nines, maybe some crap. There's probably a heart draw in there somewhere, so we're going to want to bet hard because we want to get the most money in when he wants to stay in. Because with a pair and a heart draw, he's going to stay in with a lot of hands. So we're going to bet like 22. Okay, he stayed in. Now we have a king. It's pretty safe to say that he could have a heart draw here. So we're going to go with some weak value, 39.
No, I'm actually thinking betting a little harder because either he has no hand or he has like a king or a jack and he was looking for that. So we're going to bet like 55 and hopefully he'll call because he was looking for the draw and we don't have the best image against these regs, so he might think, oh my god, he's bluffing, and since he was drawing too hard anyway. And if he wasn't drawing too hard, he's not calling anyway, no matter what we bet. So hopefully, so he just said he had no heart, so he folded. But, okay, I'm going to raise jack 10 here. I think that's an easy raise. If someone limps, it's obviously a sign of not strength at all. So that fourth heart was probably a very bad card for us. I bet he had a pretty good ace since he chatted about it. So that's a little sad. We could have probably got good value out of that.
But also note on that hand that because the heart came on the turn, he may have at that point put us on. Okay, here's the hand. We have the board is 9-9-7-5. He called our flop bet. Now he's leading out. I think we're just gonna call here. He could have a 9. It's not incredibly like ridiculously likely. He may just have a weak draw and is trying to just block. I mean, normally when someone calls on the board, you think like 6-5, 7-6, something like that. Now he checks. I think there's some weak value in here. Normally players at 200L don't go for weak value. I'd go for 45 or something. He could have a 7 here pretty easily, and we flop trips on the other board. If he shoves, we're probably going to have to fold. I don't see what would be beating unless he thinks... I don't see why he'd think we're bluffing. So let's see what happens. Hopefully he gives us a call with a weak 7, which is very possible.
I just want to note on this other board, I did have a straight draw on a limp pot, but since it's a one-card straight draw, you're really not going to get much value out of it. So, okay, and he folds on this hand. On the other hand, I flopped trips, made a hard continuation bet. It was kind of a dry board, and just wanted to build the pot a bit. I usually continuation bet pretty hard, so, okay, king 7 off, we're going to fold that. Okay, we got, now this table's filling up a bit. It was kind of four-handed for a bit.
Note on the last A7 hand, most of the time players, especially low-stakes players, a lot of higher-stakes players will say one of their biggest leaks is not making thin value bets. And that's a good example of a time where, I mean, the guy checks the river and we have A7, and yeah, he could be getting tricky, but how many players really at 200L are getting tricky? Not a lot. And when you think you have the best hand, you probably should give a C-bet. And there, I think we probably have the best hand like 80% of the time. He's not calling a value bet that much. We may have wanted to make a weaker bet to see, because we know he doesn't have a great hand, and we just want him to call. So we may have made a bet of like 30 there or something. But then again, we don't want to put ourselves in a hole and induce a raise when we really don't want it, because we don't know the guy and we really can't call it. So we make a bet of 45 and hopefully gets a call with a 7 or something.
Okay, we're going to raise right here. We're just two-tabling, and this is a decent hand. 9-5. And also, I want to make the point, a lot of people complain that everyone's a calling station, so you might as well bet when you have the thin hand so they can call off their stack with stupid hands. Okay, we're going to c-bet this. I'm just going to do it 2/3. It's kind of like a dry board, so he's either going to fold or he's going to call, so it'll just save us a little money. But we usually, continuation, I'm just going to, okay, we can raise this. I usually continuation bet according to the texture of the board. So, sure, we vary our C-bets, but it's because of the board texture. It's not because of our hand at all. So, if you get a board like 6, 7, 8, and there's 2 diamonds on it, I'm going to probably continuation bet pot. If I get a board that's ace, 8, 2, rainbow, I'm going to continuation bet like 2/3. But it's usually going to be different. We're just going to fold here. He's a half stack. Suited connectors kind of lose value as the stacks go down because you don't have as many implied odds. And I don't know, there could be like a little value in calling there, but it's just really, you can just fold there and it doesn't hurt at all. And so now we have 10-3. I'm just folding that.
Just a note, me and Max have both been talking about how we're making different size bets in different situations. A lot of people have a misconception, especially at these stakes, that you have to make the same type of bets every time, and that's just not the case. You're losing tons of value if you did that. Okay, we've called with 6s. We probably aren't going to call a C-bet. He raised under the gun. He's a tight raiser. He just hoping to set. A lot of people have a misconception that you should be betting like 3/4 pot every time so you can be deceptive and shade your range. But really, these people aren't reading well enough to the point where that's going to matter much. And even if they're reading well enough, if you realize how they're going to react to you, them reading you, then you can take advantage of it. So, for example, let's say, okay, we flopped a spade draw, so we're probably going to c-bet this pretty hard in hopes for an ace, to get a weak ace to fold.
So, okay, so we're going to probably bet about 16. Danny said we're trying to get a weak ace to fold, but it probably won't fold. But we could possibly double barrel. Hopefully no one has an ace, so we can just take it down. Okay, so he check raises, min raises us. This usually at these stakes, I think it kind of means like a top pair. But I don't know if we're going to be able to get this guy to fold it. We actually could, but we're just going to call here and hope. Okay, so now we picked up a pair. This is an interesting situation. This is a very...
Okay, now he checked to us. It almost sucks that he didn't bet, because a lot of times you'll see people check min raise. I think we're just going to have to check behind here. And there comes a king. I mean, I wish we had more time bank so we had more time to think about it. He bets 25. I'm pretty sure it's an ace. I really... We're getting 5-1. We're just gonna fold. I mean, it's a shitty spot. There's an interesting spot though, because a lot of times you'll see min raises there, and it just means like I have ace weak kicker, and I wanna see if you have a good hand, and that's probably what it was. So maybe if we could have thought about that more, it would have been an interesting spot to shove over. But what we probably would have done is waited for the turn and then let him bet. Do you think that?
Yeah, well, the thing is that a lot of people say they read good and they play bad, and that would have been a spot where probably trying to get this guy to lay down top pair, which I'm pretty sure he had just from all the betting, is you just don't know. I mean, he's a 37 8.6, but we only have 35 hands on him. I have no idea how much he values top pair. He could think we're bluffing. You just don't want to do that. We could have bet the turn. The turn was questionable. Betting the turn kind of hard would have been interesting, but we can just take our free card because I'm pretty sure he's not folding his ace there on the turn, and I don't want to put in a huge river bet as a bluff if I miss. So
yeah, when he checks the turn, he pretty much had us fail because he's pretty much telling us he may have a decent hand. There's not really that many. He may have had. I don't think he's bad enough to have it seems from stats and just plays up. I mean, anyone who min raises, a lot of times you can assume they're pretty bad. But what I'd want to do there personally is I'd call the flop just like we did, and if he put a weak bet in on the turn, I'd probably shove over, because to me that would just be. Or, well, now that I think about it more, it's harder to tell. But if he had a weak bet on the turn and that turn came in 8, I'd probably shove over. Okay, so we have kings. Of course, we raise. But the important thing about just calling the flop there for me is that we get to see if we had a spade draw. Second thing is we get to see his bet size. If he bets really hard there, I don't think we have any chance to get him to fold unless he's bluffing. If he bets really weak there, it's like, this is exactly what I'd expect him to do with top pair weak kicker. So, so that's a spot where you can make a pretty big bluff, which is a nice spot. But I mean, a lot of times with draws, you're just trying to figure out, is there any fold equity here? Can I get my opponent to fold? And a lot of times when you're facing a raise, that's not the case. I'd say more often than not, if you're facing a pretty large raise, there's almost no chance you're going to be able to get someone to fold. If you're chasing a smaller raise, there's a bigger chance. Here, if he did his min raise and then made a weak bet on the turn, I could safely say there's a lot of ace X in his range, and we could probably shove him out of the hand. Alright, so not much action.
yeah, queen 8, we're just going to fold. It's short stack, he's really tight, but if we get really loose, he could just shove over us, and we're not going to be able to call. 8 shorties. We got about 10 minutes left, hopefully. We're probably not going to raise this either, even though if these guys were full stacks, we probably would, but since they are so short. Okay, we're going to raise king 3 suited, though. We're pretty loose, so we like doing that. Okay, 4-6, easy fold. Just because suited kings, we like to play in position because we feel like we can outplay people. We can read hands well, so... Okay, he just raised 14 with ducks. This is also... I'm going to raise here, too, just because I'm like that. And ace-7 suited, easy raise. This is they're both kind of a little bit tight tables, so we can be a little bit looser. Okay, again, we keep flopping these monster draws. Okay, he leads out 16.
Okay, he bets. We saw him raise 14 with twos, and that's a pretty vulnerable hand. Here he bets out 16. My instincts tell me it could be weak because he did it with twos, and it's like maybe bet strong with more vulnerable hands. What's his win to shoot? His win to showdown is what?
We only have 13 hands on him, so we really don't need to talk about these stats. You really can't go wrong here. We're just gonna raise. We're just gonna, well, not shove. We're essentially shoving because he's either gonna shove. We're gonna raise. The pot's 32. We're gonna make it 56. No, 50.
Just shove. It'll probably look better, Jim.
Okay, we're gonna shove. Okay, he folds. We probably have the best hand there, so it's fine, but I don't know. We'll see. Like, that's just how we're going to play it. It'd be interesting if he had a queen there. I wonder if he'd fold. We don't know, though. He has pretty bad stats. We could just raise to 50, but it's accomplishing the exact same thing, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, pretty much for some players, you're going to want to... It's pretty much all manipulation. For some players, you're going to have the feeling it's better to raise 50 here because he's going to... I mean, pretty much we're pretty indifferent whether he's going to fold or not. But if he does, I think if you want to get someone to fold, you have to think about what kind of player are they. If they're a bad player, I'd say it's better to just make a big raise and just shove all in there. If they're a good player, I'd say it's probably better to make a smaller raise because they think that's better. It's like, oh, if you made like a small raise to 50 there and the guy's 40 left in his stack, we're gonna 3-bet here. Then you just think, and the guy's like, oh, well, he must have a good hand. He's just completely ignoring my stack size. Is something okay? We flop 2 pair. We're running good right now. We're going to bet like 12. I'd say 10 or 12 there. We want to encourage him to call the low pocket pair. Okay, he calls there again. I'd say we're going to c-bet pretty hard to 34 because what's in his range right now is probably a jack, a 9. 9's probably not going to call anything, but jack is probably going to call a pretty big bet because I don't think the guy's going to want to fold a jack there, or he's going to convince himself to call.
And also there's draws, and since we have a strong hand, we want the draws to really be really pay the price for chasing because it's going to be hard for us to fold to like a river lead if a 8 comes or a queen comes or a 10 comes or something like that. So,
and also just know we're trying to just milk as much money as possible because, like, for example, I talked about how this range was probably like a flush draw, a jack, or 9, and a jack is not going to fold there much. So we're just going to bet the most possible because flush draws probably aren't folding because people just don't fold flush draws much. Just one thing I want to note is I touched on this earlier, and we were talking about it, is that a lot of the things we're talking about is making different bet sizes in different situations. And I said again that people think, well, you should be making the same bet size in all situations so you're unexploitable. But the thing is, no one's going to try to exploit you at these stakes. You're losing a ton of value if you don't make the effort to play your opponent and just try to manipulate them into calling by certain bet sizes and using your entire arsenal. And the truth is, as much as it seems like, oh, well, you're doing this with this hand and this one, we're going to raise 3s under again. as much as it seems like it's like, oh my god, you do only this with certain hands, it actually starts evening out in the end, and it's not as exploitable as you may think, if anyone's actually thinking that. But it's much better just to make bet sizes, in my opinion, it's much better just at these stakes, just to make bet sizes that are maybe obvious, but are gonna manipulate your opponents into calling or folding. So, A7, it's pretty obvious raise. .38, it's pretty obvious fold. So Max is writing some notes from then looking at hand. Okay, we're just gonna call here. The guy doesn't raise a lot pre-flop. We're just gonna call, and we don't hit anything. Okay, I don't think we're gonna play this flop, but with a weak draw here, that's a flop. I may float or raise because most of his range, is gonna ace weak, depending on the opponent. Sometime I'll raise there because ace weak kicker is gonna call a float, but they're gonna fold to a raise on the flop, and then I can just safely check behind the turn. Or you can. I like to get creative on ace high flops with like nines and with a 9 and 8 down, or a 10 and a 9, things like that, because it's scary for a nitty opponent. So we're gonna raise twos. We're just gonna c-bet here and just shut down if he calls. So we're gonna shut down. I mean, okay, he didn't bet the turn. This may be a spot where you'd want to do something. I don't think we're going to try it. He's not that aggressive. He could easily just check behind the queen. And if he goes within value of fear, it's obvious he has a queen. So let's raise ace 4. Sevens on the button.
I just want to say, we make it, when it's folded to me, I make it 6 on the button, because I just want, because a lot of people like 3-betting from the blind. So okay, again, we saw him raise really big with ducks pre-flop. This looks kind of weak.
Again, with some reason, ducks, I think it seems like you'd see the same thing with an 8. I think it's just safe to just fold here. We have no idea what he's going to do on the turn, but if he makes another big bet, we're going to have to fold anyway, so... And it doesn't seem like he has any intention of not. So, full stacks, I think we raise 8-7 on the cutoff.
I usually wouldn't do this if I was 8-tabling, but since we're 2-tabling, we're paying attention more to every hand, and we can see what's going on. Like, usually I'm not going to see this hand going on when I'm 8-tabling, but when I'm 2-tabling, I can see this hand going on. And so we're paying more attention. Okay, we flop mid-pair against this guy, this donkey.
Donk bet into us like every time. Okay. Okay, he's donk bet into us like every time. Here, I'm pretty sure you'll see a lot of players just do this on weak boards. I would call here and hope he checks behind the turn. Okay, king comes. This could be a really tough. I mean, we're probably just going to have to lay it down if he makes a big bet, but we're just going to lay it down. This guy's getting annoying, though. If a safe card came on the turn, we'd probably... it's just... I don't know. Maybe we shouldn't even call the flop. What do you think?
Well, I think... I don't know. That king came, and then he made a value sort of bet. He could have actually hit a king. I don't know. Notice that when we played with them that time when we hit that big draw, we pushed over... I think it was a pot-size lead, right? It was a pot-size lead. That's an over. Both of those were over pot, so we don't really know what that means yet. But considering that he's done that twice, makes me think that it's probably not that strong. Who knows, though?
I mean, he's donk betted into us pretty much every... Don't raise here. You should have paid attention to stacks. No, don't raise on the button when there's without a hand that has legitimate showdown, but the hand okay, well, we flopped it straight. This is a really good flop for us. He leads into us. We're going to make a really huge raise, probably to 40. This is a lot of times. I mean, problem is he's 3-betting light. A lot of times it's a 2-pair set type hand. I don't think this guy's going to possibly fold unless he was leading out a 10, which is possible. So we'll see what happens. Okay, so we just got his money. Oh my god. Fucking A. See, it was a set, and... Oh, well, that sucks, but, you know, I just have to move on. So, he didn't 3-bet 8s there, which is somewhat surprising, but we know that I mean, it's pretty obvious that a lot of regs will just lead out their sets, and we flopped a monster, and he ended up sucking out. It wasn't that bad, but that's what happened. And this guy just instantly folds. He let out almost pot. Okay, we have king queen. We're